when you work for other companies, you're speaking with a recruiter, and that recruiter can't really tell you, expectations clinical wise. Like they can't tell you like, oh, your base population is going to be X, Y, Z.
Welcome to Scrubs Unzipped podcast, where we unveil the stories behind the scrubs. And today I have a very special guest with me. Can you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, yes. Thank you for having me. My name is Adebayo, but I go by Bio for short. I'm the CEO and owner of StatMatch, the healthcare staffing agency.
Awesome. So, can you briefly describe your journey from nursing to entrepreneurship? What inspired that transition?
Yes, yes. Also a registered nurse. Honestly, I would have to say that I've been an entrepreneur, honestly, all my life. I can remember going back to second grade and buying like now and laters or candy. I buy for about 50 cents, and they come in like three packs.
Hmm.
I'll take one and I'll sell it to like each of my friends for 10 cents.
Wow.
Come up like $1 or something off of that.
Oh, wow.
But also it's my background coming out of Brooklyn, New York, and coming from a Nigerian family. If you're familiar with like the Nigerian culture, we're very much hustlers.
Yes.
So I'll have to say I've been an entrepreneur all my life. It's just nursing helped to give me that push into a new perspective on how to get that hustle up even better.
So you mentioned that you have your company is called Stat Match.
Correct.
And so how did you identify the gap or need for a healthcare recruiting agency? What sets your agency apart from others?
Yeah, I'll have to say it started during COVID when, as you know, um, travel nursing was very big for nurses during COVID. They were giving out, quite a lot of money for us nurses. But working for other companies, travelers or nurses who work for, agencies will understand. But when you work for other companies, you're speaking with a recruiter, and that recruiter can't really tell you, expectations clinical wise. Like they can't tell you like, oh, your base population is going to be X, Y, Z.
Mm.
You know, so there's a barrier where you don't really know what you're getting yourself into. A lot of us travelers, we go into these assignments blindly. Like we don't really get the clinical insight or expectations of what to expect going in. So I noticed that gap is where if you had a better relationship with your recruiter where you can, trust them, um, where they can give you better clinical insight as to what to expect for your assignment, that's a better bond, a better relationship to continue on, you know? So I thought to myself, I said, hey, why not? Why don't I start a travel agency where your recruiter is also a fellow nurse or a healthcare professional who understands the ins and outs. And not only that, it's also better for your client who's going to be the hospital or nursing home, school facility, whatever, wherever you're trying to staff. Because you as a nurse, you understand the in and out. You understand what your fellow nurses need to hear and want to hear. Being truthful with them on what to expect. And on the contrary, you know what your client, what kind of nurses they need.
Mhm.
You know, if you're working on a floor where sometimes your providers are not really going to be too reliable. You got to be a strong, independent nurse, and you're not going to place a nurse who just 2 years out the game, and want to touch their feet in the water. You're not going to place them there. So that's where I noticed that gap is a travel
Sorry.
agency by nurses for nurses.
What? Sorry. I told you
Yep.
I'm waiting for this new place.
You good. So
um.
good.
Oh gosh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, you're straight. right? And sip some of my tea.
Yes. Let's take a little. Yeah. So you were talking about how having clinical knowledge really helps um, when you are looking for people to fill up open positions, because I used to be a travel respiratory therapist, and I've been
Wow,
to Alaska, I've been to Hawaii, I've been to California,
cool,
Florida,
nice.
New York. So I basically
Wow,
went to all of the places where I wanted to go, but when I went there, I was just there was only research about the location, not the actual hospital. Because when I would show up
right.
there, it would be like, oh, crossing my fingers. I hope this is gonna be a good one.
Yeah, going in blindly. That's what I'm talking about. But how would you have felt if your recruiter was a respiratory therapist who could tell you like the clinical insight, like, okay, these are the patient populations you're gonna have. This is what you're gonna expect. This is how, if you get that cold blue going to the ICU, this is what you're gonna have to expect. Wouldn't you have felt more
Yeah,
comfortable going into
definitely.
your assignment? Like, all right, let's get it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I definitely feel more comfortable. And the the thing about traveling during COVID, everyone was just like, we'll get anybody. If you have a
Right,
pulse,
right.
we'll
That
give
was
anybody.
scary times out there. It was scary times,
So I'll
man.
be like,
Yeah,
okay. And then they'll try
scary
to like bait
times.
and switch you and say that they won't be
Hmm.
transparent with their pay. They'll have their pay like on their website, but then you upload all this information and then you're just saying like, what happened to that job? And then they're like, oh, it's not available. It was like,
Yeah,
really? I just saw the website yesterday and I applied. I gave you all my information, so I was just like, there are some intricacies about traveling. And when you are a traveling respiratory therapist or a nurse, you're kind of like a independent contractor, because like it's you like your recruiter really helps you, but you really have to go out for the jobs that you want. So how do you ensure finding the right fit for both the healthcare institution and the healthcare professional?
yeah. It goes back to using your clinical insight. So you have that conversation. Well, for one, one thing I do is like myself and the fellow nurses who are recruiters will send out ourselves out in the field and work a shift or two
Oh,
or so and get familiar with the facility.
oh,
Once we're familiar with the facility, we can now have that conversation with any nurse who's looking, for hire or looking for placement at the facility for staffing, and we can let them know, hey, listen, this is the skills, XYZ is the skills you need, XYZ is what you need to expect, and we'll assess that nurse skills and background and see if they really will be um, a good fit for it, because it's not going to benefit the agency, the nurse, or the facility, you know, just throwing somebody out there in the fire. So we're on the front end and back end, and that's how we're able to um, determine, if that fit is going to be good between candidate and facility.
okay. How do you deal with, like, I believe that there's a little myth that if a hospital needs travelers, then that means that it's a bad place to work. Because I've
Yeah,
heard that they say like, well, if they don't need if they needed travelers, then that means no one who actually lives there wants to work there. So how do you deal with that pretense like before someone signs up?
yeah. I think that situation is like I think there's multiple factors um, in that, because what if the hospital is like in a rural area,
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's not, you know, the population there is not, high, and there's not that many nurses in the area, and
Okay.
not too many people are willing to commute to work at that facility. So location is one. That's a conversation to have. Two, um, I mean, sometimes that is the case. Like sometimes that is the case. Let's be real. Sometimes that is the case.
Yeah.
So. Your question is how do I deal with that?
Yeah.
Like how do I have that
Yeah.
conversation? I think again, it goes to it goes to putting ourselves out in the field first to like assess and analyze like okay, what kind of facility this is, and if it's really just a facility where just unfortunately just based on the location if people don't want to work there, you have that conversation with your nurse.
Mm.
If it's a facility where the care is not the best and it really is the facility for why they can't maintain their nurses and they have a high turnover, you just have that conversation with your nurse too, and you let them know like, hey, listen, this is what you should expect. And, it's hot over there. It's a bit rough. You have to be very strong, independent. You should expect you should expect your provider to not get back to you within the first 10 minutes or so, etc. So again, throwing ourselves in there first and then being able to have that conversation from our experience.
So does that mean you won't send people to places like that you wouldn't work yourself?
No, not necessarily. Not necessarily. I had a case like that. Not necessarily. I wouldn't say I wouldn't send people to places I wouldn't work myself. I again will have that truthful conversation with them on what to expect. Sometimes I'm surprised. Some nurses are okay. Like one facility that's not right for one is okay for another. Like
Mm.
sometimes I'm surprised that some nurses, you know, they're like, okay, I don't really care. I'm gonna be able to stay afloat through that storm. Like they're able to hold it down. And some is just not right for them. So everyone has a different preference. So I wouldn't say I wouldn't send one nurse to a facility. I'll just be
Upfront and transparent.
brutally honest with them. Yeah.
Okay. I think that's the best policy because not many people like to be blindsided. I don't think nobody likes to be blindsided.
Yeah, yeah.
But we do I know you try your best and this is the first time I have heard of a manager or CEO that would actually go to the hospital first and like scope it out and get intel cuz most hospitals are they want to hide stuff. Like
Right.
they're the ones who are not they are the ones who are not upfront and transparent. So I really commend you for that, for doing that and taking the extra time to scope it out and get intel for your employees. So that is awesome. That is really awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I think that's the best way to go. Yeah.
So, for other nurses or healthcare professionals out there who are thinking of starting their own business, what's one piece of advice you'd give them?
I would say start with your niche. Start with what interests you, and what you're good at. You know, I know this probably is going to sound a bit off, but some nurses been on floors where the patient acuity is so high that you're constantly going into your shift knowing that you might have to start compressions on your patient, God forbid. But and then at some point you pretty much a proficient BLS, ACLS. You already know. You already know when it's time. It's a 2 minute time. Pause. Let's check the pause. Um, you know. So if you are well versed in that, why not start your own CPR? Your own CPR course.
Mhm.
You could certify people BLS, ACLS, PALS. Um, some nurses start off as a CNA before becoming a nurse, and they still take the time to uh, do the hygienic care for their patient
Mhm.
as opposed to calling a CNA who's all the way down the hall and waiting a few minutes for them to get there. But if you're still proficient in that, why not look into starting a CNA school in your state?
Ooh.
So I would say start with what you know and what you're good at, and think outside the box. If it don't sound crazy enough, then you're not. It got to sound crazy. Like you got to tell your friend and say, "Hey, listen, I'm gonna go to the moon tomorrow, and they gotta look at you like, yo, are you okay? Like it gotta sound crazy, and you just gotta make it happen. Just take the chance. Just take the chance to make it happen.
That
You
is
know?
so real because I actually had a CPR business in
Oh, look at
school
that.
and in respiratory school. So I would train all of my classmates in CPR, and that's how I got
Nice.
extra money to like pay
Yeah,
my
exactly.
tuition. So I think that is a
Yeah,
very profitable um, ad- adventure and endeavor. And if you're passionate about teaching and passionate, because I've taught doctors how to do CPR and they don't know how to do
yeah. Look at that. Isn't that amazing?
it.
Yeah.
Like they don't put the mask the right way. They put the mask like the nose part down by the mouth. So it's like
Right.
I've taught students, I've taught doctors, I've taught mostly all the people that I can get in contact with, and it's just really rewarding that one day like your teaching could actually save someone's lives, like outside of what we do at the hospital. Like what we do in the hospital is like getting paid by employer, but once you take ownership and be an entrepreneur and use your skills that you learn to actually forward progress, I think that is like commendable. So I think that's a good
Right.
CBR business. Like even if you don't want to do something in healthcare, you can do a business in anything that you said you're good at. And I actually interviewed Nicole, who's another respiratory therapist. She does laser artistry. So she does earrings and she does wood making. So there are a lot of
Cool.
creative people in healthcare. And that's why I started this podcast, because I wanted to shine a light on how healthcare workers are balancing their passions with their real job. So I think that is like amazing. And I know that you are a busy entrepreneur, but
Appreciate
we
it.
all need a way to unplug and recharge outside of your demanding job. What's a passion or hobby that keeps you grounded?
A passion or hobby. One thing. I'm also a barber, so I
Oh,
also cut hair, and I find it relaxing when I'm still able to have a client or two come. I could cut their hair. We have a conversation. Um, and sports. I love sports, athletics. I love to play basketball. Run. So those two things I would say definitely it's nice to like get away from the whole healthcare and just get some relaxation and you know be at peace and be at one with myself doing that. And I think all us healthcare professionals need to maintain our hobby. Something that always keeps us happy in our mind outside of that healthcare field
yeah.
because it could take a lot on the mental.
Yeah, it definitely
Yeah,
can. And I'm a living witness that it does take a lot, but I really practice gratitude. And even like in a code or something, like I just say like thank you for allowing me to add a few more minutes to their life and
yeah,
let the patient and the family have more time together. So I really like even the smallest things, like thank you for having letting me get a chance to get a break to go to the bathroom.
yeah, yeah.
Like
That's how real it is.
thank you for not
Yeah,
letting anybody call me while I'm trying to go to the bathroom. So like
right.
I just make sure that I extend gratitude everywhere I go. And
Yeah.
yeah, I just really love it. So I want to change gears. So, if you could have a superpower to instantly solve one major challenge in healthcare recruiting, what would that superpower be and why?
If I had a superpower to change it, you know what? If I had the superpower to um increase rates, I would do that
Okay.
because I think that's a big barrier to recruiting nurses if the obviously if the pay is not really hitting to what they feel is right, um, then they're not gonna work uh, the job. And I understand. I've always been there too. Where I'm like, oh no. But when you're on the other side, for example, like we also help staff home care companies, and they'll like introduce you to the family, the patient, and you generally want to assist them in finding care, for their loved one. And many times the barriers is that the funds are just not hitting right enough for the nurse to actually take the job. So
Mhm.
it leaves the patient, without a caretaker essentially. So if I had the superpower to increase rates or increase what like insurance pays out or what these hospitals or facilities are willing to pay out, you know, I would love to do that. Yeah, I think that would be I think that will definitely help solve a lot of staffing issues. It always comes down to the funds.
Yeah, because I know that inflation is very um like it's something you need to consider when you are traveling like 500 miles out from your home. Like you can't sleep in your own bed and you have to rent out a place. So it has to make sense. And even when you're
Right,
duplicating expenses, like you're paying for two places. So it has to make sense to leave your house, leave your family to go to another place where you don't know
right,
anybody. So I definitely like that's a good superpower because even during the COVID contracts, like they were paying out a lot of money, but that was for the government. That was from the government. It wasn't from the hospitals themselves. So they had a little extra, and they were desperate. They're not as desperate
right.
as they were
Yeah,
back then. So I think the times are changing. So I want to ask you, what's the next big thing or innovation you foresee in healthcare recruiting, and how is your agency preparing for it?
yeah. The next innovation definitely is the integration of technology, AI technology. Like you see Chat GPT blowing up, and um, you know other AI technologies. But I think AI is definitely going to take over recruitment. I think it's like technology. Like for example, I always had a vision of like when you part of the recruitment process can be like the integration where whether it's a simulation, a nurse can like vividly see the hospital, see like their patient population, probably meet like the managers and things, all on their computer or phone or tablet to give them a more realistic approach on expectations and what to expect, you know.
Mhm.
But AI technology definitely how we preparing for it. Um, I would say we stay up to date on what the latest technology is and how other companies are integrating the technology into their company, and just feedback from nurses we work with too. Like, hey, does this technology work for you? Did this make your recruitment process, you know, more simple? So feedback and just staying up to date on what's going on out there. But I think, is definitely going to take over
Yeah.
recruitment.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I just wanted to ask you how the AI, they do have like software that looks for keywords in a application. So how do you think that will affect applicants and the hospital industry? Like, do you think that they will miss some great candidates because they don't have the right words on their resume, or like how do you think that would play out?
Yeah, yeah. I think that could be the case. I think you are right. There are like a lot of hospitals that use AI already to source candidates, and that's the chance they could, if you don't have the right words on your resume for that technology to match you up with the job, it may bypass you. Um, I tell all the nurses, um, sharpen your resume. Like, put down your experience, put everything down. Put down as much as you can, and um, a lot of times we don't give ourselves credit for all the experience that we've done and what we've been through. Like, put that experience, explain the skills you got from it. So the more you have on that resume, the more likely that technology is to actually pick you up and not miss you. Yeah.
Yeah,
So it goes back to the
and
resume.
I definitely think like resumes are important, but I believe that most positions are network based, and you really like I really use my brand, my personal brand, to give me an extra leg up against all the other candidates. Like the other candidates might have more experience than me, but I make sure that my brand is consistent, that I know what I stand for. Like even all of my social medias, I make sure I have the same message that I want to change the world. I make sure I have that message there. And when I get attention, they know that, oh, okay, she's really versed in this area because there's a lot of people who comment on her posts or comment on in her social circle. So I think that is very important. Resumes are very important, but also networking is very important. And you never know, like your next job could be connecting with someone else in a grocery store. So you never know how your next opportunity will come to you.
I agree with that for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Are you saying that you use your brand to help you get like RT, like RT jobs?
So actually, I did. My most recent job at a children's hospital, in February, I did talk. I did a presentation on mental health in healthcare, and it was
Right.
at the same children's hospital that I did that. And I didn't know that I was going to work there like months later. So when I did
Oh
the
wow.
interview, they're like, "Oh, I remember you. You did that talk that we attended in
Okay.
February." So it was just, and it was the Georgia Respiratory Society of respiratory care. I don't know, I'm adding too many letters, but it was the Georgia, like every state has their own little society for like respiratory. I'm sure they have it for nurses too. So for the Georgia Board of Respiratory Care Society, I just emailed someone on Facebook, um and they were responding to a post, and I was like, I would love to get to know you more and like just like have a coffee chat. And then she connected me with someone, the president of the board. And then
Oh
so once
wow.
I got connected to her, she actually gave me the opportunity to present to this audience of my peers, of other respiratory therapists. And then from that, I was able to develop a book that's going to be released in January of
Congratulations.
2024. So, yeah, I definitely am a pioneer of networking. Networking is can go beyond your resume because people have the know, like, and trust factor. When you're looking at a resume, you can only see the words and the pages. But when they see your face, when they see your actions, that you keep your word, that you have good references, that will push you over the top so that you can stand apart from anyone else.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah, I agree.
yeah. Yes, so I don't want this to be too long. So the last thing I want to ask you is if there's one thing you want listeners to remember or act upon after hearing this podcast, what would it be?
I would say if there's one thing I want you guys to remember is like the Nike slogan, just do it, man. Just do it. If you have an idea, just go about it. Don't be afraid to take chances.
Mhm,
Take that risk. I mean, analyze it, but don't be afraid to take that chances because without that, how far can you really go? I'm speaking for my people who are trying to make a change in this world,
mhm.
whether it's for themselves, their family. Take that chance.
That is so awesome. So thank you, Bio, for coming in. We connected on LinkedIn.
Yes, yes,
So
yes. Shout out
it
LinkedIn.
works. I told you that it
Yeah,
works. You just got to send that message. You just got to reach out to
yeah.
people. So I'm so glad you took the time to be on this podcast. And if anyone wants, do you recruit for nurses and only, or do you recruit for other healthcare workers as well?
We recruit for all healthcare professionals, so
Okay.
nurses, RTs like yourself, social workers, NPs, MDs as well. We have MDs on our team,
Okay.
but all healthcare professionals.
Awesome.
Yeah,
So, tell me how they can find you, and I'll put the link in the show notes too.
yeah, absolutely. For one, you can send me an email if you want to reach out to me personally. That's my first name, Adebayo, so Adebayo at stat-mash.com, and I'll send it over to you.
Okay.
Um, you can also call us at 929-310-8799, or just check out our website, our social media, and see if we have anything that may be of interest to you.
Uh,
And Annmarie, I appreciate you for having me. This is actually my first time being on the podcast, so
okay.
you
Look
broke
at
that ice for me.
that. I sure did.
Yeah,
I'm like
you
really
broke that ice for
excited
me.
that I came across your profile, and I just can't wait to what you can do with your company. And if you need anything from me, don't hesitate to reach out.
Likewise, likewise. I appreciate you.
Awesome. Thank you. So this concludes the episode of Scrubs Unzipped. And please, if you like this episode or any other episodes, please subscribe, share, and leave a review. I would appreciate it very much. And have a good day. And I will see you later.